Yeah, good morning, everybody. This is the Grow Your Practice session 6 from the Committee for Members in Practice. So today we are having a webinar on GST with CrPC, CPC, and other laws and capacity building. So today we are having our eminent speaker, CA Jatin Harjai ji, and Mr. Jatin Harjai would be taking this session. Mr. Jatin Harjai ji is a practicing advocate. He participated, uh, he practiced as chartered accountant for more than 15 years before starting his legal practice. He is also certified anti-money laundering specialist. His short span of In this short span of time, he recognized for his contribution and expertise as a knowledgeable profession advisor and in the field of corporate consultancy and tax advisory. Mr. Harjai also represents before various judicial and quasi-judicial authorities, including tax tribunals, tax boards, high courts, and Supreme Court. He has represented clients in more than 10 high courts and country covering almost all the regions. Sir, thank you very much for coming here and sharing your knowledge with us. So I give the session to you. Sir, you may start the session and then accordingly our chairman and vice chairman would come in between and give their remarks.
Thank you, Priyanshuji, for the introduction. First of all, I would place my sincere thanks to the committee for giving me this opportunity so that I can share some of my thoughts with my colleagues present here. See, idea behind today's session is the GST is a new law. Maybe some people may say that it is 6 years, 7 years has already happened, but for development of any law, I believe this time span is very low. This is a very short span of time. Any maturity of any tax law will take much, much longer time. So what kind of role the other laws plays in understanding or maybe serving to the client? This is what our today's target. I'm sure that everyone will agree with me that it's not possible in one session or maybe 1 hour, 2 hours time to discuss each and every law. So what we'll do is we'll have a glance of idea behind how to approach the law, how to address the issues of the clients in the best interest of our client and in a proper legal manner. Please mind, if I start, why the other laws are needed to be understood. Please see, GST is a law which applies on a particular transaction or an activity of a business. So obviously, GST law talks about that who is supposed to pay tax, how much tax is to be paid by a person, maybe at what point of time tax is to be paid, what all compliances are to be made. If there is any grievance of the taxpayer, how it is to be mitigated through maybe rectification, through appellate route, what different routes are being provided. But please mind, neither GST law talks about, nor it can talk about that how to do a business. That means tax law cannot regulate the manner or the way the business should be conducted. The tax law always talks about that whatever the way business has been conducted, whatever transaction or activity has been conducted, carried out, what will be the tax impact on it? Cannot be other way around. Simultaneously, the tax laws cannot speak, and GST law is more specifically cannot speak everything about rights, obligations of the officers as well as of the taxpayer. Many a time procedure is not being provided. So that is why we need to take help of other laws. Most of the time, it is being provided within the statute itself that you'll have to take recourse of other laws. Many a time it is not mentioned, then also we have to take analogy from there. So if I'll divide how I understand that what kind of external aids from the different laws are to be taken in understanding a particular law, more specifically, if I'm concentrating on GST, so I can divide it in three parts. Number one, an advisory scale. Advisory level, when there is a client comes to you to seek your advice about maybe applicability of the GST, tax rate of the GST, about best way to handle the maybe your affairs of the company, maybe structuring which should be optimum. This is what an advisory stage. The second stage would be a kind of investigation or an inquiry stage, whereby the department has initiated some kind of investigation or inquiry, maybe in the form of scrutiny, audit, inspection, summon, search and seizure, etc. Then how you need to handle these things for your client. And the third one is adjudication level. When the department has made up a case, maybe investigation has been carried out, inquiry has been carried out, and department has made up their case, they have issued the show cause notice, then how you need to handle it. So today's our focus would be on the two separate parts, two later parts, that is during investigation and the adjudication level. But just to touch upon the first level, when you have an advisory role, please mind there are some common laws. I'm just introducing you the common things which one should be well aware with, like Contract Act, Income Tax Act, Sale of Goods Law, Customs, Information Technology Act. These are some of the common laws which one should be aware while handling the GST. Apart from this, one should have a decent knowledge of the income tax as well, so that what kind of advice you are giving, whether it is sacrosanct with the preposition under the income tax laws or not, or maybe some different situation may come out. So these are what the common laws we can say that one should be well aware with while handling advisory assignments or consulting to some clients. Apart from that, when client is from a specific industry, one should be aware with that laws which are regulating those particular areas. There are certain businesses which are being regulated by particular law. Some are absolutely free, which are not getting regulated by any law. For example, if you are giving advice to a real estate industry, if you are real estate, then you have to be well versed with the RERA. If you are advising something to automotive industry participants, maybe front runner like dealers, maybe manufacturer or the component manufacturers. In that case, you should be having a bit of awareness of the Motor Vehicles Act. Simultaneously, Transfer Property Act, when you are dealing with the matters in relation to land, rights in lands. Similarly, when you are dealing with the maybe client, you are dealing in mining, then mines and mineral laws, then FEMA for all the import-export transaction. You should have these kind of touch-ups for all those laws, so that you can appropriately, or I would say in the optimum, you can advise optimally to your client. So this is what advisory level. Now, see, today's focus would be on the other two stages, like investigation and the adjudication. And more specifically, the focus would be on a couple of items which are of great use at those stages, from CPC, CrPC, evidence law. Maybe if a question comes, or maybe if some participants have some issues with relation to Information Technology Act, etc. Maybe, okay. So let us start with the first point. When there is a summon, inquiry stage, investigation stage, normally it starts with a kind of summons are there to any of the taxpayer. Now, I'm assuming that most of the people are well versed with the GST law provisions. So I'll just touch upon some of them. I will not go into detail of the provisions of the GST law. See what happened. Section 70 provides a mechanism or a power to the tax officer to summon any person whose attendance that officer considers necessary for the purposes of any investigation which he is doing. This is what a Section 70 says so. Now, the couple of questions which are being raised are whether someone can be issued directly to the senior officers. Number one, many a time we see that clients come up with a query that, okay, that someone is being directly issued to the MD. Number two, I'm sitting at, let's say at Delhi, I'm receiving a summon from officer sitting in Tamil Nadu. Is it proper? Number three, many a time it has been seen that during search proceedings, the statements are being recorded. Whether recording of the statement during summon proceedings are correct. At times, with summon or without summons as well. Can a person other than who is summoned be appear before the authority? Now, there is a, I would say, myth is there that when a summon is being issued, the person in whose name summon is issued, he has to go. Any other person cannot go or explain the things instead of him. This is what a common perception. We'll discuss this. Now, let's take up the issues one by one. Please mind, Section 70 itself says that provisions of CPC will apply. Civil Procedure Code will apply on these proceedings, and these proceedings are to be treated as a judicial proceedings. Now, please, I will start from some basic ideas. See, how the summon is to be served. I've just taken an example that I am sitting at Delhi. A summon is being issued to me from Tamil Nadu. Is it a valid summon? Please mind, when law itself says these summons, Section 70, are a judicial proceedings as per the CPC as well, then whether rights, whether obligations, both are to be considered from the CPC. It cannot be one way that rights are as per CPC, but obligations or the responsibilities are not as per CPC. It cannot be like that. So in that way, I would like to introduce here is Section 27 of the CPC, which talks about how a summon is to be issued. Section itself says, Section 27 says, summon is to be served in a manner prescribed, first of all. Now, this manner itself is being prescribed in the Order 5 of the CPC. What that says, Rule 4 of Order 5 specifically says that no person shall be ordered to appear. No person shall order to be appear in person. Please mind, what I'm saying is in person. I'm sure you must have observed by now that at times summons are issued to get some information, to get some documents. On the contrary, sometimes they are being called to appear in person. So, whenever summons are there to appear in person, it cannot be ordered, it cannot be issued unless the person to whom you are calling resides within local limit of the jurisdiction of the concerned officer or concerned court. Number two, there can be two situations. If the distance from the office or the court, distance of his residence from where he is supposed to come and join the investigation, if it is less than 200 miles. So now you see there is an, let us take again, let us just give more facts to the example which I have taken. I'm an assessee situated at Delhi. I'm sitting at Delhi. My office is at Delhi. My residence is at Delhi. I got someone to appear in person from a deputy commissioner of state tax Tamil Nadu in respect of certain proceeding which he is doing. Is it legal? In my humble opinion, this summon is not correct. They cannot order me to come to Tamil Nadu to join the investigation for this purposes. Number one. Number two, let's change our example. Let us assume the same officer, same deputy commissioner of state tax issues a summon to me who is sitting at Delhi to give evidence in the form of certain documents. Can he do so? Now there is no bar as far as this particular section 27 read with the rule 4 order 5 is concerned. There may be some other issues, but as far as there is no problem. So that summon is valid summon as far as this provision is concerned. Coming to a third example, let's change it. Let us assume this summon is being issued by a central officer sitting at Tamil Nadu, Deputy Commissioner Central Tax, and he's sending it to me. Does it make any difference? My answer is no, there is no difference into it. Now let's again change the facts. Let's say this summon is issued by an officer of enforcement or anti-evasion wing. Anti-evasion wing of maybe a senior officer, maybe additional commissioner. Chennai sending a summon to me sitting at Delhi. Valid or not? Once again, I'll say in this position also, the summon, in my humble opinion, is not valid one. Now let's again change the situation to the last one. Let's say this summon is being issued by additional director DGI situated at Tamil Nadu. What will be the situation? Now the situation would be different. Please recollect what I said. The first point is the summon can be ordered, the person can be ordered to come in person when he resides in a local limit of a original jurisdiction of the particular officer or the court. Now what happened, as you all are aware, the DGGI officers are conferred with the all India jurisdiction. Now what happens, the person to whom summon is given is, let's say I am the person, I am sitting at Delhi, but that officer is having a jurisdiction of all India basis. So in that case, yes, if I go by right wise, yes, that summon is valid and I'm legally bound to go there. Now, how to handle these kind of scenarios as well, we can discuss that as well. That how to handle, because see, it's actually a painful exercise to go there. And actually, when you are not directly involved, how to save these kind of situations? Or maybe we can discuss right now. Many a time we have seen that summons are being directly issued to the senior management, maybe directors, MD, CMD of large companies, etc. How to save them? See, I will refer you one of the judgment in case of Sunil Devda versus CC. This is the excise case is there, in which what happened, a summon was issued to the managing director of the company. And in summon, they required some of evidence with respect to some of the documents, some instances they were requiring, along with personal appearance of the managing director. So what happened? That company responded to this officer that, okay, you please find and close here with these documents, whatever you are asking from us. And along with it, they prayed before the respective officer that, okay, since MD is not well versed with these excise affairs, taxation affairs of the company. He is at the helm of the affairs of the company, which takes major decisions. He might not be aware with what you are expecting him to answer. And so is a concerned person who is well aware with the all taxation affairs of the company. And they requested, instead of MD, you please call that concerned person, who may be general manager finance or general manager accounts, whatever. But still what happened? The officer again given the summon to the MD once again. In that scenario, when the matter reached before Honorable Court, Honorable Jharkhand High Court specifically said that, okay, the officer should consider this situation. High Court has not given the direct ruling that officer cannot do this. Please mind. What High Court said is, the officer should consider these aspects, that what he is expecting, what kind of questions he is having with relation to the business, are reasonably answered by whom? By a junior officer or by a top level officer? It should not be a harassment to the top level officer. If he really believes that the answers of his questions or maybe is available with the senior management only, or maybe he is expecting some kind of involvement of the senior management, then he has a right to ask them. But first he should hear the respective person who handles these things. With this kind of observation, these proceedings were, these petitions were disposed of. You may note that on the similar lines, under the pre-GST regime, as well as in the GST regime, multiple times the instructions were issued by the board that directly the summons should not be given to the assessees, to the taxpayers at maybe senior level officers of the taxpayer company, like even MD, CEO, directors of any company. Please mind this, when I'm using this word, any company, I'm using it from the instruction issued by the board in the month of August 2022, which are based on earlier instruction and a couple of judgments which I discussed with you. In that direction, the board specifically provided that MD, CMD, CFO, CEO of any company should not be called upon at the first instance. That means at the first you should give a summon, if required, you should give a summon to a junior level officer, not to each and every, not directly senior officials. The other aspect which was specifically directed for to the field formation is again coming from the provisions of the CPC, whereby multiple jurisprudence, including these order on the order 4 of the CPC, specifically says that the summon should not be issued as a matter of routine course. It is being specifically referred in the instruction number 3 issued in August 2022. And more importantly, whenever there is a summon, a prior permission in writing from the senior officer, like rank of the deputy commissioner, has to be issued. Now, please check how many times these kind of prior approval has been obtained. And please mind, nowadays, each and every communication has to bear a director's document identification number, by which it's very difficult to have a backdating of documents. Now, another thing is, one more aspect. Let's see, again from the CPC, please mind, whenever summons are there, law says that the summon should mention the person who is being called, in which capacity he is being called. Whether he is being called as a accused, or he is being called as a co-accused, or as a witness. And I'm sure you will agree with me most of the time, the summons doesn't have these kind of notation, that whether the person is being called as a accused, co-accused, or a witness. And please mind, now this aspect has already been incorporated in the instruction as well, the same instruction of the August 2022, that the summons should indicate, see, I have every right to protect myself. Liberty is of paramount importance in this country. These kind of rights are enshrined by our constitution. So if I have been called as an accused, I have a right to take all appropriate legal remedies before I go there. I'll prepare myself accordingly. If required, I have a right to go for anticipatory bail, or maybe any other available legal recourses, which I'll discuss in due course. So someone has to have marking whether the person is being called as a accused or a co-accused or a witness. Normally, someone should not be issued just to gather some information, which are otherwise available on the portal. Many a time we have seen that through someone, the officer again asks the same thing. Okay, you provide this, maybe GSTR 3B, GSTR 1, etc., return, etc., which are already there with the portal. Someone must not be issued for these kind of things. Now, coming to the next aspect, can a statement be recorded during search proceeding without issuing any summon? Many a time it has happened. In fact, I got a couple of cases whereby statement of the parties are recorded while the search was going on and no summons were served. See, in that case, that means section 70 powers are not exercised. There is no summon, that means there is section 70 powers are not being exercised. And search was getting conducted under section 67 subsection 2. Now, what section 67 subsection 2 confers? What kind of jurisdiction section 67 subsection 2 confers on any of the GST officer? That is very clear. It says, when the proper officer, not below the rank of this, has reason to believe that goods liable for confiscation, documents, books, or things, which in his opinion shall be useful or relevant to any proceeding under this act, are secreted in any place, he may authorize in writing any other officer of the central tax to search and seize, or may himself search and seize such goods, documents, books, or things. If we carefully analyze this particular provision 67.2, the only jurisdiction is that the officers are to be authorized that you please go search the documents, goods, books, and records which are secreted there. Go, seize them, and come back. Nothing more, nothing less. Officers, while exercising powers under section 67, subsection 2, cannot go beyond this. Please mind, our constitution provides us the most important fundamental right as a liberty. This is what our constitution has provided us, which cannot be compromised otherwise than by way of provision of law. Search itself is a intrusion in fundamental rights. It is an intrusion in privacy. RJ Trading Honorable Delhi High Court has in crystal clear terms said so. And so many judgments are there on this aspect otherwise as well. That when the search happens, search is a intrusion in privacy of any person. At this juncture, I just remind a quote from very learned jurist called Lord Edward Coke, which said that the house of every person is like a castle or fort to him. That means it's a place where no one can enter without his permission. It's like a fort or castle for him. So if someone wants to enter, one has to have a permission from the owner of that place, owner of that house, office. And that this aspect has been protected by our constitution in the form of a liberty, privacy. But that can be breached with authority of law. Now, section 67, subsection 2 gives authority to break that privacy, but for limited purpose. For the purpose of entering into the premises, search the goods, records, things, or documents which are secreted as per them, as per department, search them, seize them, and go back. Officers are not authorized to do anything else. Officers are not authorized to maybe just make computation or detailed investigation, or maybe just analyzing documents there. Many a time we have seen the officer sits there, they have already got the document, they want to compute and they want to check and they want to verify everything on spot itself. In my humble opinion, it is this kind of jurisdiction is not conferred by section 67(2) over the officers. If they want to tally the invoices, they can have a copy, or they may seize the original as well. They can take them home. They can take them to their office. They may check whatever they want to do there, but not at the premises of the taxpayer. Whereas practically we have seen it happens. Similarly, in my humble opinion, the statement cannot be recorded in exercise of power under section 67, subsection 2. Now, please mind and compare the provisions with that often provided in income tax law. Income tax law, section 132, which authorizes search and seizure, itself confers the power to record a statement on oath within section 132, which is not there under section 67 of the GST law. The statement on oath can be recorded under the GST law under section 70 only. So recently we have a couple of these cases which are being challenged before the courts that any such statement recorded are bad in law. These are under process. Let's see what the fate remains. Similarly, I'm just sharing my example, my experience with any of them. You may check whether the same thing happened with you. Because see, for all practical purposes, we all know that the statement which are given at the time or during search are under pressure. This is what more likely this happens. So in one of the cases, what happened? Summons were served during the search itself, that the spot summon is being served. Spot summon served, and specifically they have given in summon itself, it is written that, okay, you come, you are supposed to give a tender statement at this premises. This means address of the notice itself. And that at 8 p.m. Fine. The statements were recorded. In statements, as told by client to us, some kind of admissions were there in the pressure of the department. Now, Panchnama of that search says that search has been started at 7 a.m., concluded at 10 p.m. I'm telling you a live example of the case. Now we have checked the summon and verified document identification number, which was already there on the summon which was given to the client. When we check DIN, the DIN says this summon is being issued at somewhere 11 p.m. or something, post 11 p.m. Whereby as per summon itself, it says you come before me at 8 p.m. and Panchnama says that the search has got concluded at 10 p.m. and Panchnama is also having a notation or a recording that a statement section 70 summon was given and statements were recorded. So now with this, you can see what kind of malpractices, I will use the term, are being happened many a time at the department level. That means it clearly shows that someone was not issued before conclusion of the search, Rather, it was issued at some time after conclusion of the search, whereby the statements were recorded before conclusion of the search, and document says the summon was issued prior to statement itself. You can verify these aspects many a time. You can go and check with your records as well, with your client's record, where these kinds of things are there. If that kind of things are there, in my humble opinion, those summons are null and void itself. You need to go and get it quashed from the respective courts. Now the next point, without someone can statement with whether spots. Yes, this I would say this is a food for thought. See, please mind the section 70 summons. Proceedings are in the nature of the judicial proceedings, as mentioned in section 70 itself. Now the question is, okay, before posing a question or food for thought for you, I'm going to give you a brief background. Please mind Article 20 of our Constitution specifically gives a right to us. Just a minute. I'm sorry. See that no person, I'll just stop on this. I'm reading Article 20, Clause 3. No person accused of any offense shall be compelled to be a witness against himself. That's very important right which has been conferred by our Constitution to us. That let's say I'm accused of any offense, then I cannot be compelled to be a witness against myself. Whereas under GST law, we regularly see this happens. Now, a summon is being issued to Mr. X, and he is being compelled to give a statement against him. Many a time it happens. Article 20 clearly gives you right that you cannot, no one can do this. Similarly, you must be well aware that when statements are recorded by the police under 161, then they don't have any evidentiary value. 161, 164, I'm sure that everyone is well aware. Only statement recorded before magistrate are the valid statement. Evidence Act, Section 25 specifically says so, that if you have made any kind of confession before police, then it cannot be admitted as an evidence in court of law. These are a couple of provisions which we should aware. Section 25, evidence law. 161 CrPC, that person has every right to remain silent when a question is being asked to him, which has a tendency so that he'll get stuck up or he'll be exposed to a criminal charge. Now, please mind the evidence which can be relied in a general law is 164 statement. And our section 70 gives the power of a nature of judicial nature to our officers. Whereas, now refer search proceedings. Section 67, subsection 2, which gives right of search and seizure to the officers. This right belongs to police. Please refer section 67, subsection 10, which specifically says that the search, while conducting the search, the powers and the procedure of the CrPC shall be followed. Now, in CrPC, the provisions of search are given under section 94 onwards, whereby the police makes a search. Police is the investigating authority, not a person who decides something. Police is an agency who makes up the case. Now, here, can it happen that the person who is investigating are being conferred with the power of deciding something of a judicial nature? In my humble opinion, that's not the correct situation. So we have already challenged this aspect before the Honorable Supreme Court in our writ petition under Article 32, that these kind of powers are not correct. That while search is getting executed, the powers of police are being exercised by the same person. And if at the same time, the summon is being issued, those powers are a judicial nature power. How come the same person be conferred with the investigation and judicial power at the same time? So this aspect one should be careful. This is a food for thought. Maybe after a couple of years, we'll get to have the answer of this. Coming to the other part, this is what I have said, ki one should not be pressurized to give any statement. But what if someone has pressurized? I'll come to it at a bit later stage. Maybe after 15 to 20 minutes, I'll answer this. If someone has been pressurized, maybe someone has admitted, you yourself, your employee, maybe third person, your seller, your vendor, your buyer, whosoever has given some statement, some of the document has been seized from your side. How come? Maybe CPC, CRP or evidence came to your rescue. We'll come to it. But before that, let me discuss the powers of the arrest. Now, the most important aspect is arrest. And I'm sure most of people will agree with me. Whenever there is a decent size, decent amount cases there, the threatening of arrest is there. The departmental officer gives a threat to arrest, so that and under that threat, or I would say pressure, coercion, many a time assessee agree to things which are actually not for some sins, or I would say for some mistake or some wrongdoing which he has actually not done, but he has agreed under the pressure of the threat of arrest. I will discuss this aspect in two layers. Number one, whether provisions of arrest are actually constitutional or not, whether these provisions are constitutionally valid or not. Number two, whether when the procedure, when these, even if assuming that the legislature and the parliament has a power to make such kind of law, whether the law has been made in such a manner that it is workable, that one can say that the arrest is practical in the GST law. We have already challenged this aspect and got relief from the courts, from the Honorable Supreme Court, I would say. So I'll just tell you some of one or two theory behind this. First of all, please mind, we all know that Section 69 provides power to arrest, confers powers of arrest on the GST authorities. Fine. That's not a problem. We all are aware that when the Section 132, subsection 1, clause A, B, C, D attracts, then there are certain limits. After that, the that arrest powers are there with the officers. This is what power provided in the law. Now the question is how to exercise that power. Number one, this is what one question. Whether any mechanism is there under the GST law, that how the search is to be made, how the arrest is to be made, what after arrest. And before that, can you think of why arrest? Why a particular law provides the provisions of the arrest? What gain department will have by arresting a person? To my mind, there are only and only two objectives of the arrest in any economic law. Number one, that maybe a person is not cooperating in the investigation process. And if he is not cooperating, in that case, there can be a custody can be sought from the custody can be taken, a person can be arrested and maybe interrogated like police so that he can give some evidence or provide details. This is what may be one purpose. The another purpose can be that the person should be in a judicial custody so that he'll not be able to manipulate evidences. He'll not be able to pressurize the maybe some other witnesses, etc., etc. So I think these are the two purposes only. There are no third purpose to my understanding. Now, what happens? How an arrest is to be made, how an investigation has to be carried out, it has to be mentioned in somewhere. In GST law, to best of my understanding, it is not mentioned. Now, let's come to CrPC. Please note, Section 4 of CrPC specifically says that any investigation has to be carried out, any investigation for an offense which is punishable under IPC, Indian Penal Code, has to be carried out as per the provisions of this law, means CrPC. Now, please listen, very interesting thing which I am telling you. 4 subsection 2 of the CrPC. All offenses under any other law shall be investigated, inquired into, tried, and otherwise dealt with according to the same provisions, but subject to any enactment for the time being in force, regulating the manner or place of investigating, inquired into, trying, or otherwise dealing with such offenses. Meaning thereby, any offenses which are punishable other than by way of IPC. For example, GST law, there is section 132 which provides punishment of certain offenses. Then whole of the investigation for such offense will be carried out as per CrPC itself. It has to be carried out as per CrPC, save as or subject to the procedure or the aspects which are covered in that particular law. That means if GST law provides something, that means if GST law provides a particular procedure, the investigation will be done by that procedure. But if GST law is silent, and it is silent on whole of the procedure, then the procedure of the CrPC has to be followed. That's very important. Now, question is, I'm sure whosoever has dealt with these officers who arrested the persons, once the GST officers arrest a person, many a time they themselves are confused what to do. They are not sure. Many a time officers are not sure whether the person to whom we have arrested, should we take him to our own office? Should we take him to the police station? Or where we take him, that arrested person? What kind of document we make? Because see what happens, GST law is silent on it. Everything is provided in CrPC. Now, please, CrPC provides so many things. Now, I'll just tell you one very specific thing. CrPC section 172 specifically provides for making of a case diary. What is a case diary? Whenever there is an investigation, then IO is supposed to make a case diary, which is a kind of file, you can say, or maybe a set of documents, whereby he has to mention each and every aspect in relation to the case. When he got the first information about the case, when investigation was initiated, what kind of places they visited for that investigation, how many persons' statement were recorded, what kind of observations are there. These all aspects are to be recorded in the case diary. And that will give a conclusion that, okay, after this kind of investigation, now the decision of arrest has been taken. But all these things are absent in the GST. No such case diaries are being maintained. And see, what is the benefit of case diary? The police can take arbitrary action, just like GST officers can take arbitrary actions without any accountable mechanism. So that kind of mechanism is there with the police, with the CrPC, which police follows. Now, what happened if police arrest someone? Most of the time, what happens, whenever there is maybe any bail application or the case is being discussed in the court of law, court calls for the case diary. And case diary is being gone through, that what kind of observation are being recorded, so as to ascertain whether any arbitrary action of arrest is not there in case of a person who is arrested. There is no arbitrary action. But what if, how a court will examine in case of GST arrest? Actually, there is no case diary. There is no provision. There is no procedure provided in the law, and the procedure of the CrPC is not being followed. So that's the one point to say that there is no mechanism. The mechanism is completely absent. So the arrests made by the officers are not valid, number one. Number two, very quickly, I'll tell you one of the constitutional issue in making of the arrest provisions. See, you all are aware that GST law has been enacted under authority of Article 246A of the Constitution of India, which was enacted through the constitutional amendment happened in 2016. Before this, what happened? All the taxes were levied under authority of Article 246. And under Article 246, what happened? There are three lists we know. One is union list, one is state list, then third is concurrent list. Concurrent list doesn't have any tax entry. It is union list and state list. Now, please see, or you may note and you may cross-verify it. The architecture of our constitution is very beautiful. It's not haphazard. If we'll go to Schedule 7, where union list and state list are there, please have a careful look at the union list. You will see from item number 1 to item number 81, all are administrative entries. No, nothing to do with the taxation powers. It is all our administrative entries. Now, entry 82 to entry 92C are the entries in relation to levy of taxes. Now, 92C is abolished. Then third is entry, there is an entry 93, which specifically talks about that offenses against law with respect to any of the matters in the union list. That means you can say there are three types of entries are there in the union list. One, administrative, another, taxation power. Number third are talking about lawmaking power with respect to offenses, but 4 offenses which are enumerated in the union list only. Similarly, if you'll see state list is also having a similar kind of architecture, whereby from entry number 1 to 44, this is a regulation or a administrative entries. After that, from entry 45 to entry 63, there are tax entries. Entry 42 to 63, this is a tax entry. And entry number 64 is perimeteria to entry 93 of the union list. That means offenses against laws with respect to the matters enumerated in the state list. So the field of legislature, I'm not using the word power to legislate. Power to legislate comes from Article 246, but the field of legislation for the union and state comes for the offenses, comes from entry 93 and 64 are being identified. Why I'm emphasizing it is because the tax entries itself are not enough, I would say, to confer power of legislating a criminal law. Now, what happens? Now, let's go back to Article 246 and 246A. 246A talks about GST. And the word used in Article 246A is, just a minute. It says, notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246 and 254, Parliament and subject to Clause 2, the legislature of every state have power to make laws with respect to GST imposed by union or state. So meaning thereby, this is an entry in relation to tax, not for offenses. So meaning thereby, there can be one argument to say that legislature lacks competence for making any law in respect of punishment and arrest for GST levy, for levy of GST, in respect of the levy of GST. Preposition, I must say that on these two issues, which I just narrated to you, number one, the lack of mechanism, and the another is lack of competence for making these kind of things. So the challenges has already been made before the Honorable Supreme Court. And Honorable Supreme Court, prima facie, agreed with it and granted the interim protection to many of the cases, including cases argued by us. In fact, I would like to share here is one of the recent case which we pleaded before Honorable Supreme Court in case of Param Dairy Limited, whereby we prayed. Probably this is first case in the country whereby a company has pleaded this provision that arrest provisions are not correct under the GST law and got the interim protection that no coercive actions shall be taken against the, our prayers was against any of the agent or officers of the company. That means all persons. Otherwise, every case were in individual name. This was the first case which was in the name of the company to the best of my knowledge. So anyway, this is what, now when I have discussed this particular aspect, how one can use it or how we have used it. See, please mind, once arrest happens, so you don't have any option than to go for a bail. You have to go for a bail, or otherwise you can seek quashing of the quashing as well under 482-226. That's a very limited options, likely to yield very less likely to yield any result, 226 or 482 before High Court. Instead of that, the correct practice is once the person is arrested, it's you have to file a bail application. If bail is rejected by the lower court, session court, then the High Court. This is what the proper chain. But see, when you have a threat of arrest, still the person has not been arrested. Once you have a threat of arrest, in that case, one can take this call to get a prior protection. The another idea can be a anticipatory bail. Many a time people ask us and maybe come to us that, okay, we are threatened, we are having this kind of threat that the officer is giving threat to us. Maybe he is alleging that there is a involvement of 8 crore, 10 crore, 15 crore, 20 crore, whatever amount it is, but more than 5 crore. So we will make you arrest kind of thing. So in such situation, many a time people ask for, should we go for anticipatory bail? Normally, though it is case specific, but normally my advice is not to go for anticipatory bail. Because see what happens when you are going to file an anticipatory bail. That means you yourself is declaring that I am suspected for arrest. And please mind, in all probability, whenever this kind of case is being filed, the counsel from the department side is going to oppose your application of this particular anticipatory bail. And let's say this anticipatory bail is not granted. So whether you are about to get arrested or not, but there are chances will increase like anything. Now you'll definitely get arrested if the anticipatory bail gets rejected. So normally I avoid giving advice for taking an anticipatory bail. Rather, I have taken this route, which I am telling you, that petition before Honorable Supreme Court directly, not under Article 226 before High Court, rather directly under Article 32, file a petition before the Supreme Court challenging the virus of the law and the procedural lacking in this particular procedural lacking within the law and maintaining of the premises or regular documents, lacking of the procedure provided in the GST law. So all these aspects, one can certainly get a interim protection at this level. If get this interim protection, there is no reason of any arrest at this, we can say. Though this is it is an interim order, no final orders are there, but yes, interim level, the case is appropriate, the Honorable Supreme Court is granting this interim protection. So I don't know whether how long it will survive, but for the moment it is serving the purpose. The next date is also scheduled on next coming 16th is the next date for this particular case. Once again, we'll see whether it goes in favor of the assessee, against the assessee, or maybe goes postponed. Let's see. Anyways, yes, one thing I just pose a question itself, whether a person other than the person who has been summoned can appear before the GST officers or not. Well, let's say one summon is being issued, but please mind, first of all, CPC is clear about it. There is undoubtable CPC provisions are very clear. Rule 2 of Order 5 of CPC says if a summon is being issued to a person, then any of his legal representative can represent the person who is summoned, though there is a specific clause which says if the person summoned is specifically asked to appear in person, then he has to appear in person, not otherwise. Similar aspect has been enshrined, similar provisions are being enshrined in section 161 of the GST law as well, which specifically says that in any proceeding, authorized representative can go and appear on behalf of assessee or a taxpayer or person who is summoned, or the notice has been given to a person. So any authorized person, who can be authorized person? Authorized person can be a employee, can be a relative, can be a practicing advocate, chartered accountant, company secretary, cost and works accountant, and retired officer, etc., etc. All these can be authorized person. There has to be a specific power of attorney or a wakalatnama in whosoever they can go and represent. But please mind, if the summon is there for a specific presence, that means for giving statement by that person, then in that case, that person has to go. Any other person cannot go in that place. Now, I think I have tried to touch upon some of the aspects in relation to, I would say, when the investigation is going on, that means some summon is there, search is going on. Then, okay, so yes, before proceeding to these CPC aid of the different laws in adjudication, I would just touch upon a couple of other things which are there in while the search proceedings are going on. See, Section 94 onwards, under the CrPC provides a complete procedure, what to do and how to do in case of a search, which can be noted, like you might have noted that when there is a, on the basis of this, on the basis of these statutory provision itself, now in the GST also, the board has issued the instruction which is dated 2nd February 2021, instruction number 1, whereby the board has specifically provided that one has to have a lady officer while you are going to search a residence. Please check whether it is there or not. Things are very much clear from the board says that if the person is if the search is being authorized for premises of person A, then person B's premises cannot be searched. I would like to throw some more light on this issue. There's a concept called consequential search, which is there under the income tax law. Meaning thereby, you all will agree with me that provisions of authorization of search under income tax and under GST law both uses a very strong term, reason to believe. If I'll be very specific to GST law, then GST law says reason to believe, recording of reason to believe will be for that there is some goods liable for confiscation, documents, records, things are secreted, which are useful for the GST proceedings. So those documents are secreted. This has to be a reasons which are being recorded. Now the question is, let's say regarding person A's premises, this kind of reasons are recorded. And when the search was going on at the premises A, officers gets to know that some of the documents or records which they were searching or which they were having reason to believe that they are at premises A, they get to know that these documents, records are not at premises A, rather they are secreted at premises B. Now what to do? Now the income tax law is a bit different than the GST law. Now see, income tax law is specifically gets diluted here, and it says when the competent officer has reason to suspect, the other premises can be searched on this kind of suspicion. So because within search, this kind of suspicion arised, so one can go to the other premises. But please mind, in case of GST, it is not there. GST law doesn't have this kind of provision for consequential search. There is only one provision for search, that is 67(2). That means reason to believe has to be recorded by the proper officer, and proper officer is the one not below the rank of the joint commissioner. It is not the person who went for the search. Please mind it. So if at the time of search of premises A, some kind of documents or information is revealed to the officer, that's the things or documents or records which they were looking at it are secreted at premises B, they have to do a thorough homework on it and then take a proper authorization or a search warrant from the competent officer, and then only the search at the premises B can happen, not before this. Please mind, this is important one, because many a time it has happened. In fact, I'm handling one of the cases whereby similar kind of situation was there, and in fact they have raided the premises B without any kind of warrant. Premises A was there. They were having a search warrant for premises A. They got to know that, okay, premises B, probably these things are there, and they raided the premises B. So anyway, so in my humble opinion, this particular aspect is absolutely illegal. Next, whenever the search is happening, then there have to be two independent witnesses has to be there. This is important. But when you will go to the so many jurisprudence under the CPC on this particular aspect, please mind, this is not a very, very strict requirement, meaning thereby the two independent witnesses has to be there. But if it can be altered or can be diluted, I'm not saying removed, it can be diluted depending upon circumstances. There can be a search of a premises whereby the other persons are not available. People are not available at all. Maybe in some emergency situation in night, the search is happening, something. So, but you cannot solely rely on this. But if this is a kind of a search of a regular business place whereby so many people are there in the place, etc., it can happen. One important aspect also I would like to mention here is, many times practically what happens whenever the search gets started, officers press the taxpayer to switch off the CCTV. Is it legal? My answer is absolutely no. There is no law, neither GST nor CrPC says that you have to switch the CCTV off. I will always suggest that you please remain your CCTV's cameras switched on, because the moment it is switched on, the officers knows the law, this procedure properly. So they will exercise the likelihood of exercising of the powers in a proper manner would be more when the CCTV is on. Please mind, in fact, the board itself has suggested that if the premises which are searched are insensitive in nature, it is better to get it recorded, that the search proceeding should be recorded. This is what one of the specific guidance in the circular instruction issued by the board. It may be referred. Now, now let me move to the adjudication aspect. See, till now, whatever I have discussed was are the legal aid from the other laws, mainly CPC, CrPC, while you are handling inspection or maybe kind of summons, search, etc. Some from the arrest proceeding. But let us go to the adjudication aspect, whereby the actual liability is to be crystallized over the taxpayer. First of all, let us understand. Let me precisely discuss what is adjudication itself. many a time. And in fact, it happens in a GST where on a very regular basis, we are using the term assessment. Now, the question is, when the order is getting passed, is it an assessment order or an adjudication order? Or it is same, adjudication or assessment is the same. I would like this, listeners, I would like participants to think on it. The proceedings under section 73, 74 precisely are adjudication or it is merely an assessment. Please mind, what is it? Okay, what's assessment? Let's go to understand the difference between these two words. What is the assessment? What is the adjudication? See, term assessment is defined in the law. Section 2, subsection 11 specifically says assessment means determination of the tax liability under this act. Now, this tax liability can be assessed, can be determined by a taxpayer, by the officer who is conducting audit, by the officer who is issuing show cause notice, by the officer who is passing the order. Fine. All are doing the assessment basically. Assessment is determination of the tax liability. Friends. Now, what is adjudication? This term is not defined in the GST law, but if you will go to different dictionaries, legal dictionaries clearly define this term that to give a judgment or to give a decision to a legal problem or to a issue or on a dispute between two parties. Please mind, this is very important, which I am going to discuss right now with you. The process, the adjudicate, what is adjudication? That means, okay, there was a dispute between two parties and the third person, which is an adjudicator or we can call him as a judge, is going to decide that problem, that issue, that dispute. This is what a process of adjudication. On a lighter side, let's give me an example. Let's say there is a FIR is being lodged for a theft. Now, police has investigated and identified Mr. A that he is a thief. Now, what's going to happen? Police will file a charge sheet before the court, and police will plead that Mr. A is guilty of this theft. In all possibilities, A will say, no, I am not a thief. I have nothing to do with this case. Now, who is going to decide this legal problem or this issue? This is a dispute between police and Mr. A. Police is saying A is a thief. A says, I am not a thief. So decision will be given by the judge. And this process is called as adjudication. Similarly, when 73, 74 proceedings are going on, these are the adjudication proceedings. First of all, we need to understand. Now let me give a different perspective with an example which you have, you all must have experienced. What happens when a DGGI search happens? DGI authorities makes a search, or maybe anti-evasion authorities under the CGST law. What happens when the audit wing of the CGST department conducts an audit? What they do thorough investigation in their own powers, boundaries, whatever the powers are conferred in the respective section. They complete the investigation and then finally prepares a show cause notice. And please recollect and go back and check all the show cause notices issued by the central authorities, maybe audit, maybe anti-evasion, maybe the DGI wing. In all the show cause notices, they gives all the aspect of the offenses. And then this tell you, now you are required to show cause before so-and-so officer. Why not this kind of tax be imposed? Why not this kind of interest or penalty be imposed? Now, what is happening in this case? Please mind. The DGGI officer or the government officers, whoever has conducted this investigation, is one party to the case. The other party to the case is the assessee. And the officer which has been identified in the show cause notice is the adjudicator, is a judge, who is going to decide whether the show cause notice issued by the charge or the allegation in the show cause notice issued by the concerned officer, IO I can say for a short, whether the allegation made by the IO is correct or whether the contention of the assessees are correct. So please mind, this is what a complete process. So for any adjudication, there has to have three parties. One is adjudicator. Apart from them, there has to be two other persons. This is what a basic theme of adjudication. Why I have identified this aspect. What I observed is, as far as central department is concerned, they are going on this principle fairly clear. In fact, if you'll go, there is a circular as well. Circular issued by the CBIC also. Circular was issued in February 2018, which specifically says, para number 6 of the circular specifically says that whenever officers of the investigation cell, audit cell will make up the case, they will issue the show cause notice and the case will be adjudicated by the officer in their executive commissionerate or the administrative wing. Please mind it. This is being specifically even referred. Why? Now I'm coming to the one specific aspect, which is called as doctrine of bias. Please mind, the person who has investigated cannot decide it. The person who has investigated something cannot be a judge. First principle of natural justice is the adjudicator should be free of any bias. In Latin, it is called as nemo judex in causa sua, or some places, some jurists call it as nemo judex in re sua, meaning thereby prosecutor cannot be judge. A person cannot be judge in his own cause. Now the question is whether it will be applicable in the GST proceedings or not. In my humble opinion, yes, it will be applicable. I'll just throw some. I'll just touch upon a couple of judgments. If you may refer, judgment of Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Ashok Kumar Yadav. If we'll go to that judgment, it is not from the tax laws, but they have dealt this aspect, whereby Honorable Supreme Court specifically said, justice is not only the function of the purely judicial officers, even the quasi-judicial or administrative officer are also bounded by the principle of natural justice. And this is what the first principle of natural justice, that a person who is or supposed to have any bias is incapacitated. Further, so many judgments are there on this particular aspect. If I'll directly come to the judgments which has been decided in the GST law, you can refer Swastik Plastic from Honorable Delhi High Court. What happened in that case? The order was passed by a person called name, if I'm not wrong, Chunni Lal something was there, who was also the member of the search team. So Honorable Delhi High Court quashed the order only and only on this particular issue, that once the person was part of the investigation team, he cannot be said to be unbiased. On this aspect, this particular order was quashed by the Honorable Delhi High Court. If you want to refer some other cases, in one of the case from the Honorable Madhya Pradesh High Court, whereby I argued before in a bench led by Honorable Justice Sujay Paul, in case of Technosis systems, Technosis security systems. First of all, I got the interim protection on this ground, among others. And then when the final order was passed on this particular issue, on different issue, that opportunity was not proper. But in the last para, if you see, on this argument that the person who scrutinized the case, one of the points raised by me in that particular case was that the order has been passed by a person who has done the scrutiny. So if you go to that particular case, the honorable court has specifically passed the order that the fresh adjudication will happen and the opportunity of hearing will be granted by the person other than the one who has issued the show cause notice. In that case, what happened? The scrutiny was done by the same officer who has issued the show cause notice and had passed the order. So Technosis security system can be noted. Similarly, very recent judgment on in case of Popular Mega Motors India Limited. If I'm not wrong, 23rd February or 22nd February judgment would be there. Once again, whereby I argued the same aspect, and Honorable High Court disposed of the petition on this direction on our plead that because at the case was at show cause stage at that point of time. We have pleaded that the person who himself, who is proposed to be adjudicator, has investigated the case, has inspected us, has issued the show cause notice. He cannot be free from bias. So the Honorable High Court has specifically hold that the adjudication will be done by the person other than by the officer who has issued the show cause notice. Similar is the case of audit as well. In my humble opinion, if the audit has been conducted by a person, he cannot be allowed to conduct the adjudication. Though I am not having any final order as of now, but I argued the same issue in case of Kaushal Pharma. It was July 2023 case whereby the Honorable Rajasthan High Court stayed the proceedings of the adjudication itself at the adjudication level. Show cause was issued, PH notice was issued. So Honorable High Court has given the stay, which is prevalent at this point of time. So precisely speaking, the doctrine of bias is the one, if you think the person who is going to adjudicate or who has adjudicated the case is in any way related to the investigation proceeding, he cannot be said to be free from bias, and any such proceedings are in violation of the principles of natural justice and should be quashed. Now, going further, once we have discussed what is the concept of adjudication, because first of all, we have to know what is the adjudication. Then let's come to the another part, which is very important to understand burden of proof. Now, see, you may encounter so many situations in while getting the case adjudicated, who have the burden to prove that the taxpayer has not paid tax correctly, or taxpayer has undervalued its supply, or the tax rate was not correct, or maybe input tax credit has been wrongly taken. So who is having this burden? First of all, if I'll just give you a background, I'll come to the GST law in a bit, maybe after 1 or 2 minutes. But first of all, we have to know what the general law says. Please mind, in this regard, one may refer to evidence law, which clearly says the burden to prove in any proceeding lies on the person who would fail if no evidence at all were given on either side. Now, our GST law is a self-assessment based law, meaning thereby I am to self-assess my case as per my own understanding, as per my as per my understanding of the law. I have to file my return. Once I filed my return, my self-assessment is over. I have paid taxes on my own. Now, if the department comes and challenges, if it says that, okay, I have paid the wrong taxes, there is an allegation. So, if that allegation is there, that allegation has to be substantiated by the documents. It has to be substantiated by the evidences. It cannot be an allegation cannot be on the basis of some presumption or assumption. So, the case of the department would fail if no evidence is given in their support. So, in general, we can say the burden to prove the fact that I have undervalued, I have not paid the correct taxes, etc., whatever it is, lies on the person who alleges the same. This is what a general law. We'll come to it. We'll come on the GST law as well. One another thing which we should know about the evidence law is, let us say some facts are there. Some facts has been produced by one party, and if the same has not been distinguished or countered by the other party, then they are presumed to be admitted facts. Please mind it. This will be very helpful in while handling the cases. Now, there may be a question in the minds of the participants that I have discussed evidence law, but whether evidence law at all applicable under the tax laws? That's a very valid question, I would say. Very valid point, I would say. See, it is more or less settled that Evidence Act does not apply to tax laws. Does not apply. But please mind, when we are saying does not apply, what does that mean? It has been described by the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Churamal versus Commissioner of Income Tax very beautifully. There was another judgment in case of J.S. Parker versus V.B. Parker from Bombay, where it says the High Court in J.S. Parker versus V.B. Palekar held that what was meant by saying that Evidence Act did not apply to proceedings under the Income Tax Act was that the rigor of rules of evidence contained in Evidence Act was not applicable, but that does not mean that when the taxing authorities were desirous in invoking the principles of Evidence Act in proceedings before them, they were prevented from doing so. So I feel, what is the take home from this? That, see, evidence law is very tough. If you'll go to the civil courts, what happens whenever you are filing a suit, you have to have a certified copy or original document of each and every document. So these kind of rigors are not of the rigors of the evidence law is not required, but the principles enshrined in the evidence law can certainly be applied. So, or obviously, until unless something contrary is there in your law in which you are dealing. Now, what happened? I have just given a first brief background. What general law says, which is evidence law, which says that the person who alleges has to prove the fact. Burden to prove lies on the shoulder of the person who alleges. This is what the basic principle. Now, if we'll come to GST law. GST law section 155 is there specifically with regard to burden of proof. It says where any person claims that he is eligible for ITC, the burden of proving such claim shall lie on the shoulder of the claimant. That means the taxpayer. Now, it is very important to know or see that GST statute specifically talks about burden to prove with respect to ITC, with respect to input tax credit, meaning thereby, since it is silent on taxability, all the issues of the taxability or the burden to prove will be covered by the general law. How we can apply this? Let's say there is a case whereby the allegation of the department is that there is an undervaluation of supply. That the department says, okay, you have raised the invoice for ₹1,000, whereas the correct price of this product is 1,200. This is kind of allegation. If this kind of allegation is there, or maybe alternatively, we can have another example. The department makes an allegation that you have recorded supplies of maybe 1,000 units, whereas actual units supplied by you is 1,200 or maybe double, whatever it is. So in all these type of cases, burden is on the shoulder of the department to prove that I have actually supplied something on 1,200 rupees and recorded it as 1,000 rupee, or I have actually supplied 1,200 units and recorded as 1,000 unit has not been recorded. So it is, I cannot satisfy. I cannot provide. How come I can negatively satisfy? It has to be provided or satisfied by the department. Primary burden lies on them. So many a time what happens, department at the investigation level ask you, okay, why? And you started explaining. My advice would be, let the department come up with the definite charge in their show cause notice, then you need to counter it. That how it is being, how the stand taken by the department is not correct. Instead of giving something in ready-made platter to the department, better to wait for a concrete allegation. Don't give everything in a maybe a ready platter to the department to issue the show cause notice. Because if you have given something, some documents, some details, some facts, you will not be able to counter it. Because as I initially at the initial stage of evidence, I have said, once you both are agreed on something, that fact is not required to be proved. So burden to prove will get discharged automatically. Once some number, some figure, some data has been given by you, department use that data, you are not supposed to counter that. But if the department has dragged or extracted some data, some information from your books of accounts, so from your details, in that case, you have every right to say that the extraction of the information is wrong. And the correct extraction, correct understanding is this one. In this regard, you may refer the judgment of Honorable Supreme Court. Is an income tax case, KP Varghese versus income tax officer. That's a beautiful judgment, which specifically says so that onus of establishing that the condition of the taxabilities are fulfilled is on the department, is on the revenue. The burden cannot be thrown upon on the assessee. Please mind it. And one more aspect has to be known here is, please mind, many a time people says burden to prove gets shifted from this person to that person. Once someone has proved his burden or discharged his burden, then it's burden to prove shifts on other one. No, my answer is humbly no. Please mind, burden to prove is a statutory thing. It cannot be shifted. What shifted is a onus to prove or onus to disprove. That's a very specific thing which has been dealt by Honorable Supreme Court in case of Adagga Raghavamma is one of the cases whereby this particular aspect was dealt by Honorable Supreme Court, which said, okay, the burden to prove is a statutory aspect or a levy or by the statute. It cannot be shifted by the target. Yes, onus to prove gets shifted. Once again, if the other party discharges its onus, then it once again come back to the first party, not to the other one. I think Priyanshuji is there. So to give me a hint that time is, we are running short of time. So I'll just take 2-3 minutes just to touch upon some of the issues which are in my mind. When you are dealing with adjudication, please mind, many a time you might face situations that the department is showing you some document or department is telling you, okay, your vendor has given a statement that there were no bill, only bills were there, no goods were supplied, something. Whereas you are of the firm believe, no, I have taken purchase the goods. Please mind, only and only on the basis of some other person's statement, department cannot make the case. If they make the case, that case will not survive. Similarly, if department gets some kind of writing, maybe digital or maybe on the papers, just because something is written that you have done this, some wrongdoing was there on your part, it cannot be concluded that there was some clandestine removal or you have done something wrong. It is on the shoulder of the department to prove that this kind of things were there. So many cases are there. I'll just tell you one, a small piece of advice at the adjudication level, because otherwise you'll lose the opportunity. Being chartered accountant, you must do this thing whenever any show cause notice is there. And in show cause notice, department relies on any of the statement, be it your director, be it your employee, be it your vendor, be it maybe your buyer, be it any other person, or department relies on any of the document, third-party document, or maybe any document on the basis of which they are concluding that, okay, you have done some kind of hanky-panky or you have done clandestine removal, you have taken some wrongful credit, etc., etc. Please ask for cross-examination. Please ask for cross-examination. Please mind, until unless cross-examination opportunity is not being provided, those cannot be used as an evidence against you. If done so, that will be absolutely wrong. But there is a catch. if you have not asked for, please mind this cross-examination concept also came from the evidence law, which is mandatory. Without cross-examination in the civil courts, you cannot move further. Within the tax law, as I said, we have to borrow the principle. We cannot say that that whatever written in evidence law will apply as it is to the tax proceedings, but we have to borrow the principles from there. So borrowing those principles, one can say that once a person has applied for the cross-examination, it is necessary on the part of the CC tax officer to provide the same. If it is not provided, then whole of the proceedings can be said to be null and void. I'll just give you one example of the tax proceeding itself, one of the judgment in case of Kalra Glue Factory versus Sales Tax Tribunal, one may note. In that case, what happened? The inspection was carried out at a premises of a businessman, and thereafter, the case was made on the basis of a statement of the accountant who recorded in his statement that, okay, this kind of undervaluation was there, clandestine removal was there, etc., etc. Department made case on the basis of that. Counsel of the assessee asked for a cross-examination of the accountant. Department has not provided the same. The case reached up till Supreme Court. Till the time case reaches to Supreme Court, that accountant, bichara Bhagwan ko pyara ho gaya. Now what happened? Honorable Supreme Court quashed whole of the order only and only on the basis of this reason, that you have not provided the opportunity of cross-examination. This much powerful this tool is. Now there may be sometimes what happened, the officer also laughed without understanding the concept. Many a time even consultant also doesn't understand why. See, they say, okay, this is your employee, they will give now the statement in your favor. Maybe a director, you yourself is a person who is accused. Please mind. Now recollect what I discussed. Adjudication is a process whereby two parties has to be there other than adjudicator. So what happened? One, a person who has issued the show cause notice under the GST law. One is a person who is a defending person, is assessee, taxpayer. And we both are contending the case before the adjudicator. Now what's going to happen? The statement taken from accountant, vendor, buyer, or any other person, even director, they are basically witness of the case of the department. We need to understand it. Many times we see it is the same person against whom the case, whatever it is, but it is the case of it is the witness of the department. And as a defending party, I have every right to cross-examine him. This particular aspect has also been recently examined by the Honorable Delhi High Court in case of Dr. U.S. Avasthi under the PMLA law case, whereby the PMLA authorities denied for the cross-examination, saying that this is just waste of a time. Honorable Delhi High Court came heavily and specifically said, despite there is a very limited time, 180 days time is there for the completion of the adjudication, the cross-examination cannot be said to be an alien for the PMLA proceedings. Please mind, but there is a only limited time of 180 days for the adjudication, whereas the GST, now we have time for maybe 3 years, 5 years time. So whenever there is any third party reliance, please ask for the cross-examination. That may be, I would say, last nail in the coffin for your strongest case. With this, I conclude my session. If any questions are there, I'll be here. And with this, I place on record my sincere thanks to Rohit Ruwatiya, Chairman of the committee, and all the supporting staff, participants, for having me here and for patiently listening me for this last 1.5 hour or 2 hours time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you so much. And I request our Chairman, Sir, CA Dr. Rohit Ruwatiya, Chairman CMP, to give his address for the same. And afterwards, sir, we'll be taking the queries.
Thank you, Priyanshu ji. First of all, I welcome in the end our Honorable Speaker of today's session, Advocate Jatin Harjai. He is amongst the best of the GST professionals in the country because I have been watching him since when I was student. So today I am happy to see him here in the capacity building of the professionals in the Committee for Members in Practice. I was supposed to welcome you in the beginning, but there was a committee meeting running that time, and the committee of members in industry meeting was there. And since I being the chairman, I was not supposed to leave, and the meeting extended for 3 more hours. So I'm just coming in the concluding remarks and proposing a formal vote of thanks to you and to all the audience, all the members, professional colleagues who are definitely getting the benefit of understanding the various judicial pronouncement in terms of our routine professional practice, as we all are receiving various notices and issues with our clients. So I'm quite confident that by today's session, almost more than 1,000 members were actually attending today's session. So they might be getting certain benefits. And I'm thankful to Jatinji for sparing his valuable time and coming on the platform of CMP and addressing the very critical and crucial issues in the GST. So I'll not take much of the time. I'll open the session for the queries and I'll ask Priyanshu to take it forward, and whatever queries and suggestions are there. And I would urge Jatinji to always be associated with the committee for his inputs and for his suggestions. And I'll ask him to available in the various other initiatives of the committee, sir. Thank you very much, Jatinji. Over to you, Priyanshu.
Thank you so much, sir, for your address. And Jatin, sir, we have some queries. The first one is whether CA can represent client before GST authorities in summon under Section 70.
Is it audible now?
Yes, sir, it is now.
Chartered account, I have already discussed in terms of CPC provisions and 161 of the GST law, which are crystal clear that practicing CA can appear in all proceedings before the officer, except the one when the summon is specifically issued for giving statement, for recording a statement on oath, then he cannot represent except in all the proceedings. That means even if the summon is there for some other evidences, yes, CA can represent.
All right, sir. The second query is, in allied bogus invoice case, can proceedings under PMLA be initiated?
That's a very live query, which in fact doubt in the minds of the taxpayer, businessman. And I would say a couple of places the issues has been taken up by the PML authorities, which in my humble opinion are absolutely without jurisdiction. For this, one may refer PML law itself, which defines Section 3 of the PML law defines that what is the offense of money laundering. Precisely, law says, PML law says, any person who attempts or indulges knowingly or knowingly assist in any activity which are in relation to proceeds of crime. Now, what is proceeds of crime has also been defined. Now, proceeds of crime has been defined to mean that any property, it may be in the form of money or it may not be in the form of money, but it is a property. Any property which is derived as a result of a criminal activity relating to a scheduled offense. Now, what is scheduled offense? There is a schedule in the PMLA itself whereby the offenses are narrated. 29 different laws are there, and specific offenses under those acts are being mentioned there. Only and only those offenses are scheduled offenses for the purposes of PMLA. And proceeds of crime can be said to be derived from there. As a matter of fact, GST is not there. So if there is a case whereby maybe some GST offense is there and someone got enriched on account of GST proceeds, no one can say it is a proceeds of crime until unless the scheduled offenses otherwise gets attracted and some complaint has been filed under the other scheduled law.
Okay, sir. The third question is, can GST authorities call a woman for statement in evening hours?
That's a actually very interesting issue. See, statement I have discussed that the GST law provides Section 70, and 70 itself says that CPC provisions shall apply. Fine. Similarly, when the search is going on, 67 subsection 10 specifically says that CrPC provision shall apply on search proceedings. So applicability of CrPC and CPC both are being made during search and otherwise at the time of statement. Now, what happened? CrPC specifically provides that interrogation from a senior citizen, child, and woman can be made at their respective premises. Now, please try to appreciate what I want to convey with the help of both these laws, that if someone can be of two types, someone may ask or may require providing certain evidences. In those cases, otherwise, woman is not required to go. Though if she wishes to go, that's fine. But if it can be represented by any other person. But if it is for the purpose of interrogation, then we have to consider, or rather we should consider, section 160 of the CrPC as well, which says that they should not be woman, senior citizen, and child. Child means up to 15 years age, not 18, 15 years. They should not be, they should be interrogated at only their usual place of residence. Fine. So we are, in my humble opinion or my understanding or my knowledge, I don't have any jurisprudence as of now with me under the GST law, which is developed on this. But certainly I can make an argument that yes, women cannot go. Now, if I'll refer other statutory provisions and jurisprudence under different laws, the section 70 subsection 1 of the GST law is identical to the section 50 subsection 2 of the PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Law. So this kind of situation arose under the PMLA. What happened? Very famous lawyer is there, Mrs. Nalini Chidambaram. You might have heard the name, senior advocate. She is from Tamil Nadu. So she was given a summon under section 50 of the PMLA to join the investigation in the ED office. So she challenged this before the Honorable Madras High Court. Honorable Madras High Court finally hold that no, since PMLA provisions will override the CrPC if something is there in very specific, though in my humble opinion, in my observation, there was nothing very much specific. The Honorable Court also observed that both the laws has to sail simultaneously. And with this observation, they concluded that the woman has to go. Mrs. Nalini Chidambaram filed a SLP against this before the Honorable Supreme Court. And Honorable Supreme Court has granted a stay on the order of the High Court, Honorable Madras High Court. So this is what the facts from the different law, though it is not yet finalized as well. So in my humble opinion, yes, one argument can be certainly made that if a senior citizen, that is a person of having age more than 65 years, or a woman is being called by the department officer, the interrogation should be at their usual place, and maybe it may be avoided. This is an argument can be made, but nothing final. This law on this issue has not got final detail now. It is yet to develop.
Sir, I think the time is up now. So we are very thankful to have you today. And there are more questions. In case there it is, we'll share the questions with you. You can give us a reply on email and we can share it amongst the members. So thank you so much, sir. We are filled with immense gratitude as we extend our sincere thanks for this webinar on the interplay of GST with CrPC, CPC, and other laws and capacity building. CA Jatin Harjai, sir, your presence and engagement were instrumental in making the event resounding success. And I also thank our leadership, CA Dr. Rohit Ruvatia ji, CA Umesh Sharma ji, our chairman and vice chairman, sir. They have been always been supporting us for giving us a green signal for hosting and organizing these kind of webinars on the capacity building for the members of ICI through the platform of the Committee for Members in Practice. So, sir, thank you so much once again for your commitment and excellence. I eagerly anticipate our future engagements. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Indeed, it was my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir. Thank you, sir.